At 0340, on January 26, 1943, Commander Dudley Morton pressed his eye against the periscope of USS Wahoo and made a decision that every naval textbook said was impossible. A Japanese convoy, 8 ships, destroyer escorts on all sides. Morton had 16 torpedoes, a crew of 73 men, and 3 days of fuel. He ordered flank speed toward the convoy's center. In the next 4 hours, the Imperial Japanese Navy would lose more ships to a single submarine than in any attack since Pearl Harbor. And the man responsible would change submarine warfare forever, or die trying. By late 1942, the United States submarine force in the Pacific was losing the war, quietly. Not from lack of submarines, not from lack of brave men, but from a catastrophic flaw in American torpedo design that naval commanders refused to acknowledge. Between December 1941 and October 1942, American submarines fired over 1,400 torpedoes at Japanese ships. The confirmed sinking rate was less than 9%. Torpedoes ran too deep. Detonators failed. Magnetic exploders malfunctioned in Pacific water temperatures. Japanese merchant shipping continued uninterrupted. War materials flowed to their island garrisons. American submarine captains filed identical reports, hits with no explosions, and were told by the Bureau of Ordnance that their crews were aiming wrong. Dudley Morton didn't believe it, and unlike most commanders, he was willing to prove it. Dudley Walker Morton was 34 years old in January 1943. 6 feet tall, 200 pounds, from Owensboro, Kentucky. His submarine crews called him Mush, short for Mushmouth, a nickname earned from his habit of talking constantly, loudly, about everything he was about to do. Most submarine commanders kept their battle plans private until the last possible moment. Morton briefed his entire crew, every officer and every enlisted man, before every patrol. He wanted 73 men who understood the mission, not 73 men who followed orders. He took command of Wahoo in December 1942. In his first weeks aboard, he reorganized the attack procedures, simplified the fire control calculations, and replaced the executive officer who disagreed with his methods. His replacement was Lieutenant Commander Richard O'Kane, 26 years old, who would later become the most decorated submariner in American naval history. Together, they were about to conduct the most aggressive submarine attack the Pacific War had seen. Wahoo had been sent to patrol the Vitiaz Strait north of New Guinea, a critical Japanese supply corridor feeding their garrison at Lae. Morton had been on station for 6 days, sinking a troop transport and a cargo vessel, when his radar operator picked up the convoy. 8 ships in formation. 2 destroyer escorts weaving a protective screen on the flanks. 6 merchant vessels, tankers, cargo ships, a troop transport, steaming in 2 columns at 10 knots. Standard American doctrine was clear. Pick a single target, fire from outside the escort screen, escape before the destroyers could respond. Morton submerged Wahoo and drove her directly into the convoy's center formation. At 0347, with escorts on both sides at less than 1,800 yards, he fired his first spread of torpedoes. 3 torpedoes, 2 hits. The lead cargo vessel, a 5,400-ton freighter designated Fukue Maru, erupted from stem to stern. She broke in half and went under in 4 minutes. The convoy scattered. Merchant captains threw their helms hard to port and starboard, each trying to put distance between themselves and whatever had just destroyed the ship ahead of them. The destroyer escorts did exactly what they were trained to do. They turned toward Wahoo's torpedo tracks, accelerating to attack speed, their sonar pinging for a contact that should have been running away at maximum depth. Wahoo wasn't running. Morton turned toward the second destroyer escort and ordered a down-the-throat shot at 1,200 yards. The torpedo missed by 40 feet. Morton fired a second. This one ran true. Harusame, a 2,000-ton destroyer commissioned only 7 months earlier, took the hit at the bow. Her forward compartments flooded. She dropped speed and pulled out of the attack run. Morton had bought himself time. He used it to reload and pursue the fleeing convoy. Over the next 90 minutes, Wahoo fired 10 more torpedoes at the dispersed convoy ships. A 4,000-ton tanker, Nitumaru, 2 hits. She burned for 20 minutes before sinking. A troop transport, Buyomaru, carrying over 1,100 men, 3 hits. She capsized and sank in 8 minutes. A second cargo vessel attempted to ram Wahoo on the surface. Morton dived, let her pass overhead, and put 2 torpedoes into her from behind. By sunrise, Morton had expended 14 of his 16 torpedoes. He had damaged the destroyer escort, sunk 4 ships, and killed an estimated 5,000 Japanese personnel, including soldiers, sailors, and merchant crew. He had 2 torpedoes left, and a crippled destroyer, still sitting 4 miles away, unable to make full speed from the bow hit she'd taken 6 hours earlier. Morton surfaced Wahoo in broad daylight and attacked the destroyer. Commander Masao Okuda of the damaged Harusame had been waiting since 0400 for the submarine to show itself. His sonar operators had heard Wahoo moving through the convoy, tracking her general direction, but never close enough for a clean depth charge run. When Wahoo surfaced at 0742, Okuda ordered full speed on his remaining engines. He had 1 functional engine room. He could make 14 knots, less than half his normal maximum. He had a full load of depth charges, and a submarine sitting on the surface less than 3 miles away. Morton watched Okuda close through his binoculars. At 4,000 yards, he fired his second-to-last torpedo. It missed. Harusame kept coming. At 3,200 yards, Morton fired his last torpedo, the final weapon aboard Wahoo. The torpedo ran for 58 seconds and struck Harusame beneath the forward gun mount. The destroyer's bow collapsed. She began to sink by the head. Morton radioed Pearl Harbor. Message sent at 0801. In 17 hours, have sunk destroyer, tanker, transport, 3 freighters. All torpedoes expended. 7 ships, 17 hours. Vice Admiral Teruhisa Komatsu, commanding Japanese submarine forces from Truk Lagoon, received the convoy loss report at 1400 on January 27th. His staff initially assumed an air attack. Single submarines didn't sink 7 ships in a single engagement. When the damage reports clarified, 1 American submarine, 17 hours, 7 ships including a destroyer, Komatsu immediately doubled the anti-submarine patrol coverage on the Vitiaz Strait corridor. He also sent an urgent message to the Naval District at Rabaul. An extremely aggressive American submarine is operating in your supply waters. Exercise maximum caution with all convoy routes. At Imperial General Headquarters in Tokyo, the Wahoo's Vitiaz Strait attack was catalogued as an anomaly. An unusually capable commander who had gotten lucky with convoy spacing. The tactical response was limited to increase patrol frequency and revise convoy procedures. They were wrong about the anomaly. Morton was just getting started. Wahoo returned to Pearl Harbor on February 7, 1943, after 24 days on patrol. Admiral Chester Nimitz, Commander-in-Chief Pacific Fleet, was waiting at the dock. Morton's patrol report had been circulating through Pacific Fleet headquarters for 5 days and had caused what one staff officer described as considerable excitement. The numbers were without precedent. USS Wahoo had sunk 5 confirmed ships, totaling approximately 32,000 tons in a single patrol. The Vitiaz Strait engagement alone, 7 ships attacked, 5 confirmed sunk, 1 destroyer damaged, became the most studied submarine engagement of the Pacific War. Morton received the Navy Cross. Wahoo received a unit commendation. But the more important result was doctrinal. Morton's patrol report proved three things that American Submarine Command had been reluctant to accept. First, aggressive positioning inside convoy formations was survivable. Second, down-the-throat shots against destroyers worked when executed correctly. Third, a submarine crew that understood the entire tactical situation performed better under pressure than a crew following orders from the conning tower. Every patrol report from Wahoo's 4th Patrol was classified, copied, and sent to every submarine commander in the Pacific Fleet. Before Morton, American submarines operated on what doctrine called the cautious attack model. Approach slowly, fire from maximum range, dive immediately after firing, go deep. The model assumed that a destroyer was essentially impossible to fight. The speed advantage was too great, the depth charge too lethal. A submarine caught inside an escort screen would be sunk. Morton had proved that assumption wrong by understanding one thing the cautious doctrine didn't account for: time. A torpedo at 46 knots covered 1,500 yards in 60 seconds. A destroyer traveling at 30 knots covered 500 yards in that same 60 seconds. If you fired from close enough, the destroyer couldn't maneuver away before impact. If you fired down the throat, directly at the bow, the destroyer had to choose between turning to avoid the torpedo, which exposed her broadside, or continuing straight, which meant taking the hit at the bow. Either choice gave Morton what he needed. Between February and December 1943, 14 American submarine commanders adopted Morton's inside-the-screen tactics. The convoy sinking rate increased from 9% per torpedo fired to 23%. Japan lost 400 merchant vessels in 1943, more than in all of 1941 and 1942 combined. The slow strangulation of Japan's merchant fleet, which would ultimately make the home islands unsustainable, began at Vitiaz Strait on January 26, 1943. Wahoo went on 3 more war patrols under Morton's command. Her 5th patrol, in July 1943, sank 4 more ships. Her 6th patrol, in August, added 3 more. By summer 1943, Japanese convoy commanders had standing orders to report any submarine contact in waters where Wahoo was known to operate. The name appeared in intercepted Japanese communications often enough that American intelligence analysts tracked her reputation through enemy radio traffic. Morton completed his 7th and final patrol in October 1943, departing Pearl Harbor, bound for the Sea of Japan, a body of water so heavily patrolled by Japanese anti-submarine forces that American submarines almost never operated there. Morton had proposed the patrol himself. He believed the Japanese had grown complacent in waters they considered safe. USS Wahoo entered the Sea of Japan through La Perouse Strait on October 11, 1943. She was never heard from again. Japanese records, declassified after the war, confirmed that on October 11th, Japanese aircraft attacked a submarine contact in La Perouse Strait. A subsequent surface attack by an escort vessel produced an oil slick and debris. Wahoo had been caught on the surface in shallow water, unable to dive deep enough to escape the depth charges. Dudley Morton was 34 years old. He died with all 79 of his crew. On July 6, 1944, President Franklin Roosevelt presented the Medal of Honor posthumously to Dudley Morton's widow, Eleanor Morton, at a ceremony in Washington. The citation described the Vitiaz Strait engagement in full. A single submarine, a single night, 5 ships sunk. Richard O'Kane, Morton's executive officer on that patrol, went on to command USS Tang and became the most decorated American submariner of World War II. He credited Morton specifically, not just the tactics, but the philosophy. "The crew who knows why they're fighting," O'Kane wrote in his memoir, "fights harder than the crew who's just following orders." The Navy named a destroyer escort after Morton, USS Morton, commissioned in 1945. She served until 1978. USS Wahoo's wreck was located in La Perouse Strait in 2006 by a joint American-Russian expedition. She sits in 213 feet of water, largely intact, designated a war grave. No salvage is permitted. Today, the tactical principles Morton developed, inside the screen positioning, deliberate close-range firing solutions, full crew mission briefing, are taught at the United States Naval Submarine School in Groton, Connecticut. Not as history, as doctrine. Because some things Mush Morton figured out in the dark in January 1943 are still true. When the enemy expects you to run, charging is sometimes the only way to survive.